an hour of truth for the battered but proud people of the Empire State. From the financial and entertainment epicenter of New York City to the sleeping and empty small cities and towns of upstate, which once bustled with manufacturing, mining, and farming. We all know from inspiration, history, and nature, we deserve a return to the success and growth of generations past, a birthright being squandered by corruption in Albany, and the depredations of an insecure, scheming mountebank posing as governor, who loathes both us and himself. As liberty beckoned to enslaved peoples behind the Iron Curtain via American broadcasts after World War II, we now say, believe, rise, and join us. Welcome to Radio Free New York.
Hey guys, welcome to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister, and I think we've got Bob Savage with us.
It's alive!
Hey, glad to have you back. How you feeling?
I feel 100% better. Thanks very much. Appreciate that. I know that your voice is still a little on the hoarse side, but that's just the lingering effects from what was going on. But anyway, we got a lot of communications from folks saying they were sending prayers my way and thinking about me. Appreciate that.
Yeah, we were certainly missing you on the show, so glad to have you back.
Aw, shucks.
So as the weather continues to do what Rochester weather does, I have a question for everybody listening to the show and for you, Bob. And the question is it motorcycle season yet? Because man, I'm itching to start riding again.
Well, if in doubt, I would say yes, because you know what we're going to get. We're going to get the usual mix of days like this when it's kind of sunny and kind of warm for this time of year, and then you're going to have days like Saturday. So what you do is on these days, you go out and ride. And
no, it's pretty tempting. I tell you what, my only concern is, and this is maybe me just, not riding for a number of years yet, but I keep getting worried that I'm going to go out on one of these nice days and that there's going to be a patch of ice somewhere or something hanging out on the road. So
I don't think so. 50-degree days, I would think not, probably.
Yeah, I'm hoping not. We'll see. I actually had a broken garage door that I just fixed over the weekend, and I was looking and I couldn't get out those other nice days, but now that the garage door works, I'm like, man, I might need to get the bike fired up and at least go around the block or something.
Right. And just exercise a little bit, exercise you.
Yep, have some fun. So one thing I want to remind you guys probably have heard me say this a handful of times now, but I want to make sure you guys know. I want to make sure you guys are a part of the political process. It is petitioning time, which means now is your opportunity to sign a petition to get somebody's name on the ballot for elected office in November. There's a number of Senate seats up for election, a number of Assembly seats up for election, some judicial seats. I'm trying to think of what else. I don't know of any local town seats, but yeah, you never know. There might be some town or city seats going on. I'm not aware of any county seats, at least in Monroe County, in terms of like county ledge. Although I think we have county clerk, right? Is that right, Bob?
I believe so.
Yeah. So there's an opportunity for you to participate in that. I know in terms of the Libertarian Party, there are going to be at least 2 assembly candidates that I know of, 2 congressional candidates I know of, and 2 countywide judicial candidates. So just to give you guys a little sneak peek at that, I'm not going to give you guys the names just yet, but I know petitions are circulating. So if you guys need any help figuring out where to go to sign a petition or how that works, feel free to send me a message on my Facebook page. You can just search Andrew C. Hollister. There's a shining picture of me there on Facebook. You can find me there. And that's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me. Just send a message to the page. I'll try to direct you to who to reach out to in your area to find out how to do that.
By the way, we also want to toss this in. It's kind of a perennial reminder, even if you're not coming off the bench to get into the fight, it's very, very important this time out that you register to vote and that you vote. There's institutionalized voter fraud is just, it's becoming, it's attaining kind of an alarming aspect right now. And I don't want to jump the gun on Andrew here because I don't know if he's going to talk about this, but the Democrats in Albany are pushing for motor voter with the driver's licenses.
so that you would automatically be registered to vote with your driver's license, including your green light law license. And then the illegal aliens are not supposed, they're supposed to voluntarily, refrain from voting. That's the way that's supposed to work. This is being pushed by Democrats. Did you have that, Andrew?
So I knew about a bill that if you fill out like government paperwork, and I think it's as young as 16 years old, and I'll have to find this and cite this for you guys because I think there's two bills. One is a pre-registration bill for anybody 16 or older, where if they fill out like a driver's permit license application and some other like state level paperwork,
Yeah,
they
any
would
state,
automatically be enrolled.
any state form. And then
Yeah.
but curiously with the driver's license, there's an opt-out box. But then for some reason, there's a rule that's being promulgated that the illegal aliens can't check the opt-out box. I'm not following that exactly. But you can get the story, by the way, at lawenforcementtoday.com. That's the source of the story.
Okay, yeah, no, we'll definitely have to check that out because, one of the things that's really important about being an American citizen is your right to vote. And if you're not participating in voting, then you're basically not participating in the discussion. And if things are happening that you don't like or appreciate, it could be any of the stuff we're talking about the show and anything that we're not talking about on the show. Somebody is participating for you and they're having a voice. And with the way they're participating and the voice they're having may not align with your belief or values, or maybe it will. But I just can't stress enough how important it is that you participate in the electoral process. Because if you think it doesn't affect you or it doesn't apply to you, you're just totally wrong,
It's called
especially in New York
vote
State.
nullification.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. So let me introduce some of the topics we're going to talk about today because we've got a fair amount of things to discuss, but they all do center kind of around one topic, and that is the question of whether or not occupational licensing makes us safer, and also police drug busts. Do those make us safer? And that one I include in because there is something circulating around social media that I want to share with you guys. I want to talk about. If you haven't seen it yet, you probably will. And that is something that we're going to save for the next segment. So, without giving away too much, but I do want you guys to participate in the conversation. I want you guys to, jump on Facebook, jump on YouTube, search Andrew C. Hollister, click on the live feed, and send in your comments. I do see my screen's dinging, so there's a couple comments that I'll check in a minute here. Or as we're talking, feel free to call in. So the number is 585-346-3000. Once again, that's 585-346-3000. I want to give you guys the opportunity to have a voice in this discussion, especially if you're a small business owner. This is going to be something we're going to talk about, occupational licensing in terms of small businesses, because I have a Wall Street Journal job market report for Rochester that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about what city leaders are saying the job market looks like versus what the data says the job market's going to look like, and then kind of compare those things to things like occupational licensing and if they help or hurt businesses in the area. So, guys, we're going to take our first break of the hour. We are going to be back in a moment. You're listening to Radio Free New York.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovation should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
If you're looking to market and grow your business, make new business connections, and give back to the community in a meaningful way, consider joining the Greece Regional Chamber of Commerce. We're the largest suburban chamber in Monroe County, and we offer networking, education, marketing, insurance, and advocacy. You do not need to live or work in Greece to join. Our members come from throughout the region. In short, we're better together, and together, we're moving business forward. Visit greecechamber.org or call 585-227-7272 to join today.
Tom Walls started in 1955. Since then, America has been through wars, natural disasters, and economic highs and lows. Rochester companies have had their ups and downs, but one constant, Tom Walls. Tom Walls has stood the test of time. A Wahlburger and a frosted mug of root beer on a sunny afternoon brings us closer to our past and reminds us of what is good. My name is Riley. I am Tom Walls.
Share the good times. Tom Walls.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
You're listening to Radio Free New York.
All right, we are back here on Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister. We've got Bob Savage here as well. And we're going to kick this off with a news story that is circulating Facebook. It's circulating as a meme. And I wanted to do some research. I actually thought that maybe I would use this for our fake news segment. And if you're just joining the show, maybe you're not familiar with kind of how things are structured. Mondays, we just kind of talk about general topics, maybe news in New York, news nationally, things going on. Tuesday is our Talk of the Town, where we talk about things that are probably happening in your town. They might impact you, they might impact your village, your county, that sort of thing, kind of like localized issues. Wednesday is White House Wednesday. We hit national topics. Sometimes we bring in presidential candidates for interviews. Thursdays are kind of a free-for-all. We do whatever. And then Fridays are Fake News Fridays, where we talk about, some state or national things. But then at the end of the show, we read news headlines to you, and you get a chance to try to figure out if it's fake news or not. So this story, I almost wanted to use for Fake News Friday, but it's so old, I kind of felt like it wasn't totally appropriate. So this is a story about Detroit police officers. And Bob, let me know if you heard about this or not, because I did not see this until this weekend. There were police officers in Detroit posing as drug dealers who were then arrested and raided by other police officers posing as people buying drugs. Did you see this?
No.
Yeah. So I hadn't seen it either. But I think it brings up an interesting conversation. So let me give you guys a little bit of background.
So real quick before you dig, it's real though. It was not a fake news story, right?
No, it's real. Yeah, no, it's totally real. It would have made a good fake news story, but like I said, this actually happened in 2017, so almost 3 years ago. And for some reason now it's starting to gain steam online.
Wait a minute. I remember this story. Yeah, it's coming back to me now. Yep.
Yeah,
it's real. It's real, but go ahead.
Yeah, so I learned a couple things about this, and it's just kind of like interesting in general. So in Detroit, I guess they have different police precincts. There was the 12th precinct and the 11th precinct. The officers, I guess, don't overlap very often, so they didn't recognize each other. They don't know each other. The 12th district was doing what they call a push-off, which, once again, I had never heard of this. Which essentially is two officers. They pose as drug dealers. They arrest potential buyers, seize their cars, their assets, everything. People who are coming up looking for drugs, and that's like just I guess a regular operation that they run. They'll find like a vacant home, kind of camp out in it, and do this whole sting operation. Well, the 11th precinct has like a special ops team, and they showed up posing as buyers.
Right.
They had no idea that this other op was going on. They had no idea that these, officers were undercover selling. So they show up, they order the other officers to the ground. They bring a team in, raid the house, and this whole thing, it's like crazy. I watched the body cam footage on this.
Yeah, it looked like a gang war.
Yeah, no, it totally did. Like people were like punching each other, drawing guns, screaming, shouting, fighting, and they were all cops. There was there was nobody else there.
It's what we call a
Just
failure
cops.
to communicate, as Clint Eastwood famously said.
Yeah, absolutely. And the neighbors in the neighborhood, they were all just watching, like they had no idea what was going on. One officer ended up in the hospital, and the question was the question that's being posed is like, how do the taxpayers feel about this? And I agree with you, Bob, 100%. And the thing that they said too is like, yeah, a failure to communicate. Like, there's a breakdown in communication. This is an issue. And then should the police be out there posing as people buying drugs? Should they be out there posing as people who are selling drugs? Is that a good way to combat illegal drugs? And we've talked on the show multiple times about, should some things be legal or illegal that are like that could be a whole like 4 shows. So I don't want to go down that whole topic of the drug war, but more so, should agencies be doing this? And this
Well,
isn't just the only place this has happened. I mean, this is happening all over. It's just this is one that came to light because of how botched it went.
well, it's illustrative. I mean, I think that the nature of this whole story, which I do remember now, I remember seeing the videos on it, is it does bring up that argument about, is it appropriate to have all this, structured entrapment, if you will. It's not really entrapment, but I understand. Look, I get loud and clear in Detroit, drugs are a real problem. And as far as what do the taxpayers think, I think the poor benighted taxpayers of the city of Detroit are numb by this point. All the stuff that goes on up there. I mean, look, the median price of a single family home in the city of Detroit, last I checked, was about $3,500. So that tells you what life is like in Detroit right there.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And there were people that were interviewed. They're like, yeah, drugs are a problem in my neighborhood, but I don't think it's this big of a problem. And and like the police are making it look like maybe even bigger of a problem. But then they found out, oh, it's the police posing as the drug dealers. So is it as big of a problem? Like, who's out on the street? Is it the police selling the drugs? Is it not? Like, now nobody knows, kind of this weird situation where even the police don't know which people are the police and which ones are the actual drug dealers.
So what accounts for the resurgence of this story? Why is this surfacing again? Something new in it, or?
No, I think what it is people are just becoming a little more aware during election time. And I think it just popped up on the internet. Somebody saw it, they started sharing it, and it's kind of like making its way virally through like Facebook and other platforms. As people haven't heard of the story, they're now seeing it and going, wow, like this is not good. Like taxpayer dollars paid for this. And even people out of state, like us in New York, we didn't pay for this, but we're paying for similar things every day that we don't know about, that we're not hearing about. Now, this also brings up not a similar story, another story in Texas, which, if you're big on the drug war and you think like, yeah, we should be on the streets combating drugs, there's a police department in Johnson City, Texas, who put out a press release, kind of entertaining. They said, hey, there could be coronavirus in the meth. So if you have meth, you should bring it to our station so we can test it for you. And,
Very
so
funny.
yeah, whether or not anybody shows up or not, it was on a Facebook page on the police department's, Facebook post. and they said, oh, this is kind of like a safer way to like get drugs off the street, so entertaining, funny, kind of snarky, a lot of Facebook comments around that. But I think the overall discussion here is, I think there are better, safer ways to get what people would consider dangerous things off the streets. It doesn't have to be drugs. It could be anything. I think drugs specifically are much more of a medical problem, and we can address it that way. But I don't know. I saw this, like I said, I thought it was fake news at first. I was like, there's no way this could possibly be true. Maybe I didn't think there was no way it could possibly be true, but I was very skeptical of it when I read it and thought that it was not true, and was pretty surprised when I found out, no, that was true. And it was old. It didn't get as much attention, I guess, before when it happened.
So a meme I saw online, there was allegedly a social media post from Mike Bloomberg, saying that Donald Trump cheats at golf.
Oh, yeah.
And the real Donald J. Trump response was, Mike Bloomberg cheats at mini golf.
Yeah, there you go. Now, it's funny. I don't know. Do you play golf at all, Bob?
I don't.
Yeah, me neither. So I've never actually played any type of golf other than actually, yeah, putt, mini golf and glow golf and stuff. I wouldn't even know how you could cheat at golf.
Oh, well, there's like a bazillion ways. Watch any golf. Watch Caddyshack.
Okay, all right.
It's like an encyclopedia. Ted Knight is really good at suddenly losing a ball and rediscovering a ball that might have gone in the rough, but now it's in the fairway. I mean, all that kind of.
Okay, so moving the ball around. That's how you cheat at.
All kinds of stuff.
Like card trick type stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Very cool. I think I just saw somebody in the comment ask what the phone number is to the station. So let me give that to you guys real quick. That number is 585-346-3000. Once again, it's 585-346-3000. So yeah, if you guys want to be a part of the conversation, definitely feel free to jump in. Tell us what you think about taxpayer dollars paying for these type of drug busts. Tell us how we can cheat at golf. And anything else that you think is a good part of this conversation. What we are going to talk about next, and the reason I tied this together, by the way, is we have like a serious opioid epidemic here, definitely in New York, but I think across the country is safe to say. And part of this is we have drugs that are made illegal, and then we have drugs that are made legal, and there's no, I don't want to say anything other, I want to put it this way, like there's just one body that gets to decide that. Like the CDC, the federal government, they pick and choose what you're allowed to put into your body. And so I feel like these drug busts tie into occupational licensing. And you guys might just think I'm nuts and crazy, and Bob, feel free to say that if you think so.
I'm trying to follow this. What do you mean? How does it tie into occupational licensing?
Because certain drugs are just made illegal, but people are using these drugs as a way.
They're declared illegal, you mean, by regulatory agencies?
Correct. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So they're declared illegal. So there's like government regulation there, but people are also using them as an occupation to make money. They're just making money untaxed, illegally in the black market.
Oh, okay. So are we referring to legal drugs then, that are just being sold in the black market? Are we talking about stuff that's illegal from the get-go?
Any drugs that just, so it could be perfectly legal drugs. They're then being sold on the black market because you're not a pharmacy. You can't distribute them, whatever. Or it could be like in most states, marijuana is illegal, but there's clearly a black market for it. And then there's other drugs too that people, for the most part, are like, oh no, we should never have these drugs like cocaine and meth and stuff that also have their own black market. But they have their own economy. They have their own, distribution and all of that as well. So we're going to take a break here, but when we come back, we're going to talk about the job market in Rochester, how I think occupational licensing ties into that, and we'll discuss that further on Radio Free New York.
listening to the voice of liberty.
WYSL.
AM 1040 Avon Rochester, FM 92.1 Rochester, and
Used car, but hate that uncomfortable feeling you get not knowing anything about its history? Well, here's how Patrick Buick GMC can help. It's simple, and it's called Upfront Used Cars. A complete history report, a recall check, all upfront on our website with full descriptions, photos, and internet sale pricing. And every price on our website matches the used car on our lot. Patrick's Used Car Supercenter puts it all up front. Every windshield has a detailed checklist showing tire tread depth, brake pad thickness. You get the picture. Check out our certified pre-owned selection and get the remainder of a 6-year, 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty. Everything's up front at PatrickBuickGMC.com. Patrick, just off 390 exit 12, corner of Lehigh Station and West Henrietta Road. Upfront used cars, exclusively at Patrick Buick GMC in Henrietta.
On January 24th, Donald Trump became the first president in 47 years to address the hundreds of thousands who pilgrimage to the annual March for Life. During his remarks, President Trump said, "Every child is a precious and sacred gift from God." He went on to say, "When we see the image of a baby in the womb, we glimpse the majesty of God's creation." Trump's remarks met with vigorous applause because the pro-life position holds that because every human is made in the image of God, each are equally valuable, deserving of equal protection under the law. Pro-lifers understand that if government is permitted to narrow the definition of a human, excluding certain categories of people like preborn babies, then those groups of people will become the targets of legalized oppression or destruction, like abortion. This Real Abortion News update is sponsored by Compass Care. For a full transcript, go to realabortionnews.com.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
WYSL.
At the law office of Arnis V. Sprankmanis, we're here to help you create the business structure you need to build your wealth and to protect that wealth for a long-lasting legacy for your family and community. Whether it's a business or not-for-profit, your will or your trust, or how to pay for long-term care, call attorney Arnis V. Sprankmanis at 800-471-4730. That's 800-471-4730 or visit avslaw.com.
This is Dr. Dina Porterfield, president of Roberts Wesleyan College and Northeastern Seminary. For the 5th straight year, Roberts has been recognized as a great college to work for in areas of facilities, workplace and security, work-life balance, confidence in senior leadership, supervisor-department chair relationship, tenure clarity and process, and teaching environment. And for the 4th year on honor roll. To join our team, go to roberts.edu.
WYSL.
Gun confiscation is on the mind of every liberal lawmaker in this state. Don't let it happen. Join Scope NY before it's too late. Visit us at www.scopeny2a.org.
Radio Free New York.
All right, welcome back to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister. I want to make sure I welcome a few of you guys to the show who are on the live stream here. I see Sean, I see Garrett, I see Drew. Guys, thank you so much for joining and for your comments here. Earlier in the show, we were talking about being involved with the just the electoral process, getting out to vote, collecting petitions to get people on the ballot, that sort of thing. And Garrett actually said, if people want to, I'm going to paraphrase here because Garrett, I can't see the comment anymore. But basically, if you wanted to support our troops, support our veterans, a great way to do that, to honor them, is to make sure that you're voting. So I would echo that absolutely.
Amen.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I said amen. Yeah, absolutely. Because it's important for you to participate in the process, and the stakes are really big. I mean, we don't want to belabor this, but it's really vital that we stand for freedom, just like our military personnel do every day, and their civilian associates.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, at some point in the show, probably this week, we're going to talk about the war in Afghanistan because there's some news centered around that. Not just the Afghanistan papers, but also possibly a discussion that we may be trying to exit the war with Afghanistan. I'm not going to put any time into that today, but kind of just let you guys know Kevin and I might touch it, whether it's Tuesday or Friday. Um, and people will look at some of these scenarios and say, yeah, maybe they weren't fighting for our freedom in this situation. I get that 100%, but I think the majority of people who sign up to be in military service, they're going into it thinking that what they're going to do is defend your liberty and my liberty. And that is the intent that I think we should be honoring. Absolutely. So let's talk about Wall Street Journal report. Bob, I don't know if you got a chance to see this or not, but the numbers that the Wall Street Journal put together for Rochester, they don't look so good.
Terrible.
Yeah,
Horrible.
Yeah, not so good.
Actually, number last, as I recall, among the cities the size of Rochester.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly right. So they put us dead last among America's 53 metro areas of more than 1 million people, with a workforce population rate barely over 60% and a job growth rate of just over 0.5%. That does not sound good.
That's pathetic.
Yeah, so we're talking about 40% of the people that are not a part of the workforce, and a very minimal job growth rate. City leaders they're disagreeing. They're saying nope, that's not true. Mayor Warren suggests that that's just not the case. She says we've got 130 creative class companies in our downtown. We have Eastman Business Park that has been reinvented.
Beside the point.
Exactly. The one thing that she said, though, that I didn't have a chance to find the numbers to see if this is actually true. So I'm going to put this out there for you guys to hear, but know that I don't know if it's accurate. She says that we have the lowest unemployment rate that we've had in about a decade. Now, I want to just tell you guys how the unemployment rate is calculated. I don't know if what she's saying is true or not. But when they calculate unemployment, if somebody is on social services, if they're on welfare, any type of unemployment program, they are not considered unemployed and they aren't calculated into the unemployment number.
Isn't that tricky?
Yeah.
This is what we call, ladies and gentlemen, this is what we call cooking the books. And back during I don't know if this is still the case or not, but I mean, he had all these various different calculi with the emphasis on lie, on unemployment levels. And at one point, I know they were counting anybody who's working at least, if they're working 24 hours, they're fully employed.
Yeah. I'm not sure how that's calculated today, but what I do know is, say you've got a population of 100 people, and 50 of them are unemployed, but of those 50, 40 of them are on social services or some sort of unemployment service. They would say that the unemployment rate is only 10%,
right,
not 50%, which to me is grossly misleading. So they're saying we've got about a 40% workforce participation rate. I don't know how that looks versus the unemployment rate, but being that the mayor is saying, hey, our unemployment rate is really low, I suspect that number looks much better and that's why they're using that number.
I think the participation rate is a function of the people who are eligible to work, people who can actually work, who are not disabled or too old or too young. It's the employable portion of the population, the population base.
Yeah, that makes sense. Bob Duffy, who you guys might remember, he's now the president of the Greater Rochester Chamber of Commerce. He kind of chimed in too. He said, "We tend to win the data war and lose the public relations battle," and pointed to a study by M&T Bank that says that we have a much better job growth rate than 0.5%. That it's more along 1.3%, which is still not at the national average. It's below it, but closer, I guess.
All right. So where's the evidence? Okay, fine.
Yeah,
so those
I
are the
didn't
numbers.
see that study like cited anywhere, and I would suggest that he probably knows the numbers and probably could actually produce that. But it's not good. I mean, we're still below the national average, whether it's 0.5% or 1.3%. That doesn't look good. That looks bad.
This is all. You want to talk about the PR war? First of all, I don't know what Duffy's statement means that we're losing the PR war. I mean, the facts are the facts, right? You don't. Look, you've got two football games or two football teams in a game. One wins, the other one loses. The loser doesn't get to say, "But we had the greatest number of completed passes. We had the greatest yards rushing." That's not the calculus. It's how many points did you wind up with?
No, I agree, and that's why I think we should be looking at things like, instead of looking at unemployment numbers, or even the growth. To be honest, the job growth percentage isn't overly important to me. If we had 100% workforce participation, why would I care if we had a growth? Because everybody's already employed. You know what I mean? Like,
we had
the growth is just something to point at.
We had 2 people employed last year. Now we've got 4 people employed. Yay! 100% improvement.
Yeah.
That doesn't impress me.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the piece that I think is pretty important. Maria Richhart from RIT's Director of Creative Services and Cooperative Education says that the trend is really going to small businesses and small companies. That they may not hire in the volume as Xerox, Kodak, or Bosch and Lomb, which, side note here, look at where those companies are today, guys. But that they are hiring our students. And that's why I think really frames the discussion about small businesses. And if we look at these numbers, if we look at the employment numbers and the workforce participation rate, we can see one common thing. We need more small businesses. So when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about occupational licensing and what city government and local officials could actually do to bolster these small businesses to help handle our unemployment rate and workforce participation rate. We'll talk about that when we come back on Radio Free New York.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
Aircraft Environmental Systems proudly supports Radio Free New York. Rochester-based leaders in climate simulation chambers for America's R&D laboratories. We're experts in troubleshooting, calibrations, custom designs, and consulting for more than 40 years. Industry pioneers, we created the first ever fleet of temperature, humidity, and altitude test chambers available to rent coast to coast. Trained and trusted by environmental chamber manufacturers, we are ACES. Find us at acesinc.com.
Human trafficking is when someone is being forced, tricked, or coerced to engage in a sex trade or forced labor. If you're a kid and forced to sell sex, drugs, or work against your will, that's trafficking. You're not a criminal, and there is help available. Call the National Human Trafficking Hotline at 888-373-7888 or text Be Free. Sponsored by the Livingston County Safe Harbors Human Trafficking Task Force.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Radio Free New York.
All right, welcome back to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister. We're transitioning to the topic of how to make small businesses thrive. And when I say how to make small businesses thrive, I actually mean how do we allow small businesses to thrive? I'm a small business owner. I know Bob's a small business owner. Bob, what do you think? What's one of the ways we can allow small businesses to thrive?
Michael Bloomberg's a small business owner. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. That was just my mind was wandering for a brief moment there. Well, what we do is we get government off your back, number one. I mean, that's a comprehensive, that's a, what I would once call a 3-beer subject. I'm going to call it a 3-show subject now. I mean, the taxation, the regulation, the licensure, you brought that up earlier in the show, Andrew. These are all, they're obstacles. I mean, anything that slows you down, because the great strategic advantage of small business is our ability to move much more quickly, to innovate, you're fast on your feet. And government is it's like trying to run through molasses.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so I would say what government officials are going to tell you is going to help small businesses is things like grants and programs, and they're wrong.
No.
They're just flat out wrong.
No.
Yeah, because government doesn't create jobs. Small businesses create jobs. And government just constantly gets in the way with barriers to entry, things like regulations, red tape, zoning that makes it so you can't run a small business out of your home, all sorts of things. And one of the biggest things that I see is occupational licensing that has nothing to do with safety. So when I say that, I'm not talking about your doctor who's getting a license to practice medicine. What I'm talking about is the hair braider who needs a special license to braid hair. And there's no testing. There's no how do you do this safely? How do you do whatever? It's no, pay a fee to the state. Talking about things like, somebody walking a dog and they pay a fee to the state. They don't go through a class that is how to handle an aggressive dog or how to do CPR for a dog who has a heart attack during the walk or something. No, it's pay a fee to the state. This keeps people from opening at-home businesses. This keeps small businesses from starting up. And it keeps big businesses growing because the competitive advantage that small businesses have, which is they can be local, they can be direct, they can be your friends, they can be your family, they can give you better service, it makes it really hard to get into that market. And I tell you what, the way New York operates and the way Rochester operates introduces an additional barrier to small busices, which is go ahead.
No, it's mafiosi. I'm sorry, it really is. It's like the two wise guys that show up at your house or at your business rather, and they say, Boy, you got a nice little business going here, Andrew. You know, you ought to get some insurance on that big plate glass window you got out front here because, those are expensive. And, we sell that kind of insurance. So we'll stop by every Thursday to get your insurance premium. Make sure your window stays in one piece. Sound like a good deal? See you next week. That's what it amounts to. It really is. It's just sticking a gun in your ear and saying we want money.
And there's no surprise that because of this type of environment, people leave New York. People leave the Rochester area. So small businesses also have to struggle with finding talent because we can't keep talent here in this area. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I'm saying a lot of it leaves. Sounds like we've got a caller on the line.
Yes, we do. And I forgot his name. I'm sorry, caller. Rick from Rochester. Go ahead, Rick.
Yes. I'm calling, focusing in on specifically security guard licensing. I no longer a licensed security guard. I let it lapse because I'm now permanently disabled. But I did go through the process a number of times over the years, and I never saw benefit. They were talking about during the classes itself that you took, they PR you about how this allows for you're charging higher fees because you're a licensed professional and things like that. And I'm like, the first job I got didn't pay very well. I mean, it was not a good. I didn't see a lot of benefit there. But prior, I actually did work security, helping out my brother, who was working to provide security at a car dealership because they were having a severe problem with after-hours shrinkage. And he called me in because the place he was at was so big, he could not actually watch the whole place all the time. So he'd have me in one area scoping things out, and he'd be in another area. And I made a little extra money on the side, helped my brother out. Everything was cool. And there wasn't a problem. But the state came through and decided that in conjunction with a bunch of lobbyists that needed to be changed because it wasn't good enough.
What wasn't good enough about it, Rick? The fact that you had two brothers there?
Supposedly, the idea was that as somebody who wasn't licensed, I didn't have the proper professional mindset. I wasn't. Part of the procedure they also do is admittedly good. You have to take CPR training, first aid and stuff like that. But I already had that because I'm a little old-fashioned, so I came up through Boy Scouts, and I've known how to do that since I was like 12. So the new stuff doesn't really. I mean, all it is updates your fact that you can do it. They do put you in the AED training, which is not bad, but you can do that your own. A lot of fire departments set up classes once every few months that you can go in and take to be trained up on AED and get a certification for that. So I don't, like I said, I never saw any indications that was a help in my standing as a security guard.
Well, I don't see that. I think reasonable minds can differ about the necessity of having CPR training if you're there to, you're basically guarding property to make sure that, shrinkage is basically, that's another term for theft, and how the ability to, act as a first responder is appropriate for that kind of, for that kind of employment. I mean, I think if the employer wants to mandate that as a job requirement, that's one thing. But for the state to swoop in and say, just, this blanket, you've got to have this training. I don't know. So Andrew, jump in here. What's your reaction?
That's my thoughts exactly, right? Like why is the state saying you have to have these things to be a security guard when the employer could say, hey, we're looking for somebody who can do security. By the way, first aid and AED, that's a requirement of the job. Why is New York State trying to tell people what they can and cannot do? It's because New York State wants a fee. New York State wants to be a middleman, and that's what we see with these occupational licenses. Is state government, and this isn't limited to just New York State. This is states all over the country becoming a middleman, saying, "Oh, wait! You're gonna have a cash transaction? You know who needs to be in the middle of that? Me, government. Help me out here." Rick, thank you so much for your call. That definitely aligns perfectly with what we're talking about. I've actually got an example that happened in Florida recently that I think is worth mentioning. So in Hillsbury County, they have a sting operation called Operation House Hunters. And what the sheriff department did is they made 118 arrests of handymen. They called them up. They were undercover as potential customers, had them come out to a home, do some repairs, and tried to convince these handymen to do jobs they weren't licensed for.
Oh, I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's test everybody's morality. Because government, as we all know, has the monopoly on morality.
Yeah. So of 118 people that were arrested, 110 of them, this was their first ever offense. So you're talking about people that have never had a criminal record, never had any criminal history. They call them up, they bring them over to do work. Midway through the job, they say, "Hey, can you fix this outlet too? Can you do this thing that maybe requires an additional license or a special license?" And in addition to this, if the handyman said no, later they would bring it up again while the handyman was there and just try to ask him to do it in a different way. So this is really to me, this definitely feels like entrapment 100%. Um, but it emphasizes once again, government is spending money to try to trick people into breaking the law, just to see if it's going to happen because maybe somebody didn't pay a fee to the government to be allowed to perform this service. And I can't help but sit here as a taxpayer. And once again, this happened in a different state, but I found it's been happening in New York City and California going back as far as 2010 and as recently as June of last year. So this is things that people's taxpayer dollars are paying for this. I think this is terrible.
Well, the other aspect of this whole thing, too, that we haven't touched on is government. The presence of government and the expansion of government begets more government, because the more regulations that you impose, the more enforcement there has to be. And then what that does is that encourages the promulgation of still more regulations, which require still more monitoring, more enforcement. And who gets caught in the middle of this? The poor taxpayer gets caught because we have to pay for it, we have to be subjected to it, and inevitably, when things get out of hand, as they obviously have, in this instance, it's in our laps.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's that quote that says, when I do something wrong, I pay for it. When government does something wrong, I pay for it. Like, how's that work? All right, guys, thank you for listening to Radio Free New York. We'll be back same time, same place tomorrow.